Good morning. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Advisory Commission on Charter Schools, and thank you for being here. At this time, we'd like to open the meeting with a flag salute. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Today we have 3 items on the agenda. The first one is a funding determination request for 2 non-classroom-based charter schools. The second one is renewal for the new school of San Francisco. And the third item is a material revision from the new school of San Francisco. Anyone wishing to make public comment on any one of these items can sign up in the back, including those that are in remote locations, and we do have a few locations across the state. And so please sign up in those areas and for those specific items, and then we will call on you to at the time of those items to make your comments. At this time, I'd like the commissioners online and here in Sacramento to introduce themselves and explain who they represent on the commission. I'll start out with, I'm Dr. Wes Sever, and I represent superintendents.
Jared Austin, representing parents.
Lisa Constancio, representing the State Superintendent, Tony Thurman.
And then in Studio City.
Hi, this is Ari Engelberg. I'm a former charter school administrator and an at-large member of the commission.
Thank you. And then in Auburn.
This is Gail Garbalina Mojica, Placer County Superintendent, and I represent county superintendents.
And then in Oakland.
Greetings, everyone. It's Jumoke Hinton Hodge, and I am in Oakland, California, representing school district.
All right, thank you. And then finally in Sun Valley.
Dr. Mark Ryan, representing charter school administrators.
All right. At this time, I'd like to, Lisa, do you have any updates on ACCS?
No updates at this time.
And we would like to congratulate you on your new position. Thank you. That's very cool. And we'd like to thank the CDE staff that's here today and appreciate all their hard work in preparing this program for this morning. At this time, I'd like to turn the time over to Sue Burr, who has a few announcements.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Sue Burr. I'm on the State Board of Education. I'm the charter school liaison for on the State Board. I just want to take a few minutes to thank all of the members of the ACCS for their service. I think most of you know that due to some major legislative changes, the role of the ACCS as well as the role of the State Board of Education will change significantly in 2020. And as a consequence, some ACCS members' terms will expire at the end of 2019, and they will not be rejoining us in 2020. So I know that you work incredibly hard, and I just wanted to, on behalf of the State Board, take a minute to acknowledge the service of all of the members of the Commission. You did some of my work for me, Dr. Sever, because you had everybody identify themselves and say who they represent. But I'd just like to say a few words on behalf of the State Board. And I do have certificates for all of you, so the folks that are here with us at CDE, I will give these to you after I complete my remarks. And those of you who are joining us remotely, we will make sure that you get those in the mail. So first, Lisa Constancio. As Lisa mentioned, she is the representative of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. She has been promoted. This is kind of mixed blessings for the State Board because her leadership will be fantastic as the Deputy Superintendent. But we will greatly miss Lisa's leadership on charter schools. During her tenure as the division chief, she's provided incredible staff support and leadership on all charter items. So Lisa, we really appreciate you and we'll miss having you in this role. Dr. Sever, as he mentioned, represents superintendents. He's the superintendent of Kingsburg Elementary Charter School District, and we really appreciate the unique lens you bring as an on-the-ground school administrator, both in charter schools and for your leadership generally with respect to charter school or with respect to school districts. Gail Garbalino Mojica, you heard Gail mention that she's the Placer County Superintendent of Schools and represents county superintendents. I'd also note that she is the statewide chair of the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team. Gail's leadership and her expertise on fiscal matters has been invaluable, and we appreciate all of her service. Mark Ryan, who you heard from Sun Valley, I think he's our longest serving member. He's been on the commission since 2011. He's the superintendent of North Valley Military Institute College Preparatory Academy. He's taught at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. We really appreciate Mark's service for 8 years. He's probably, if he were in the classroom, he would get an A for attendance because I don't think he's ever missed a meeting. So thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate your dedication and your enthusiasm for charter schools on the commission. Ari, as he mentioned, Ari Engelberg, he's been serving also on the commission for quite a long time, since 2012. When he comes off in December, he will have completed 7 years, both as a former charter school administrator and, as he mentioned, an at-large member. We really appreciate his help in funding determinations, and we will miss Ari. Jamoke Hinton Hodge, as she mentioned, she's on the school board at Oakland Unified. She represents school district board members. We know she's passionately interested in charter schools, and we have appreciated her service. Finally, last but not least, Jared Austin. Jared's been on the commission since 2017. He's a parent of a charter school student and also serves as the director of a charter school in Vacaville. We appreciate his role in really focusing on academic programs for charter schools, and we will greatly miss your service on the commission. So again, appreciate everybody being here and your service over the many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all, am I on? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, can you guys hear me all right? Okay, all right, outstanding. All right. Thank you very much, Super. We appreciate it and all that you do for the schools in California. At this time, we need to approve the minutes from the October 8th ACCS meeting.
This is Gail Garbalino Mojica. I will move approval.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. I don't think that is there any further discussion among the board members? I don't think we have any. So at this time, we need to do a roll call vote. And so let's go ahead and start with the members here. Lisa?
Aye.
Jared?
Yes.
Gil?
Yes.
Ari?
Aye.
Jamoke?
Yes.
And Mark? Mark Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
then I vote yes. And so the minutes are approved. We're going to be moving on to item number 1, funding determination for 2 independent study charter schools. Do we have any public comment on item number 1? Jonathan? No, okay, perfect. At this time, I think McKenna from CDE is going to present this item.
Good morning, Chairman Sever and members of the Commission. My name is McKenna Huey, representing the Charter Schools Division, and I am presenting Item 1. Item 1 consists of a non-classroom-based funding determination request from 2 charter schools, Imperial Valley Homeschool Academy and Mount Lawson Charter School. Both schools requested funding determinations of 100%. The details and funding time period requested by the charter schools are listed in Attachment 1. Based upon our review, Imperial Valley Homeschool Academy and Mount Lawson Charter have met the 3 conditions required to be eligible for a determination of funding at 100%. The 3 conditions are as follows. Spend the minimum 40% of its revenues on instructional certificated salaries and benefits, spend the minimum 80% of its revenues on instruction and instruction-related services, and maintain a pupil-to-teacher ratio that does not exceed 25:1, or an equivalent pupil-to-teacher ratio of the largest unified school district in the county or counties in which the charter school operates. The California Department of Education proposes to recommend that the State Board of Education approve a funding determination of 100% for both charter schools for the time period specified in Attachment 1. By regulation, the funding determination period recommended for non-classroom-based charter schools that are renewing their funding determination is based on the number of years the charter school has been in operation. For a funding time period of 3 years, the non-classroom-based charter schools have been in operation for less than 3 years. For a funding time period of 4 years, the non-classroom-based charter schools have been in operation for more than 3 years. Thank you for your consideration of item 1.
Would any of the commissioners like to make a motion at this time?
This is Mark Ryan. I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Mark. And is there a second?
Sorry, I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we will take a roll call vote. We'll start, Lisa,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ari,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jamoke? Jamoke?
Sorry, yes.
All right,
Yes,
perfect.
sorry.
Mark?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So seeing that passes unanimously, we will move on to item number 2, renewal petition for the new School of San Francisco, which was denied by the San Francisco Unified School District. And at this time, Carrie Lopes from CDE will be presenting. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners and Board Member Burr. I am Carrie Lopes with the Charter Schools Division presenting item 2 today. Item 2 is an appeal for the renewal of the new School of San Francisco, a charter school currently authorized by the State Board of Education. As an SBE authorized charter school, New School of San Francisco was required to submit a renewal petition to the authority that originally denied the charter. Therefore, the school submitted an appeal to the San Francisco Unified School District on June 14, 2019. The appeal was denied with a unanimous vote on September 24, 2019. Subsequently, if a governing board of a school district denies a renewal petition for an SBE authorized charter school, Education Code Section 47605K3 permits the charter school to submit the renewal petition directly to the State Board of Education. The school submitted its renewal to the CDE on September 30th, 2019. The new School of San Francisco was originally approved by the State Board of Education on March 12, 2015 for a 5-year term which expires on June 30th, 2020. The school has also submitted a material revision to expand from kindergarten through grade 5 to a kindergarten through grade 8 beginning in the 2020-21 academic year, which I will be presenting in the next item. The new School of San Francisco currently serves 288 pupils in K through grade 5 on a Prop 39 agreement within the boundaries of San Francisco. The CDE is proposing that the SBE hold a public hearing to approve the request to renew the school for a 5-year term beginning July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2025. The new School of San Francisco does meet the renewal criteria as they do perform overall at least equal to its comparable district schools where the majority of the pupils would otherwise be required to attend. Overall, the school has had a record of success, has maintained positive working relationships with CDE staff, and has been in compliance with the petition and the Memorandum of Understanding between the school and the State Board of Education. Additionally, after reviewing the information presented by San Francisco Unified School District, the CDE has determined that the district's review and analysis of pupil achievement data pursuant to Education Code Section 47607B was comprehensive. The district staff recommendation was to approve the school's renewal petition for K through grade 5 based on the findings that the new School of San Francisco's performance was equal to those of the district's chosen schools. The CDE finds that the petitioners are able to successfully implement the intended program and have a sound educational program. Although the new School of San Francisco meets the renewal criteria and provides a reasonably comprehensive description of most of the charter elements, the CDE is concerned about the racial and ethnic makeup of the school compared to the city of San Francisco. Therefore, the CDE is requesting that if the petition is approved by the State Board of Education, the following will be revised in Element 7 and Element 8 of the charter petition. The analysis for Elements 7 and 8 are outlined in Attachment 1 beginning on page 29. Element 7, racial and ethnic balance. To satisfy this requirement, the CDE is requesting that the new School of San Francisco incorporate the Community Engagement Plan in the school's petition. Currently, the plan lives as part of the appendices in Attachment 8 beginning on page 144. The 8-page plan outlines recruitment and outreach strategies and the school's dedication to serving a diverse population. Element 8, which is admission requirements. To satisfy this requirement, the CDE is requesting that the school revise the order of admission preferences by giving first preference to pupils eligible for free and reduced price meals and second preference to siblings of pupils already attending the new School of San Francisco. In considering the renewal, the CDE reviewed the new School of San Francisco's appeal documents, including 1, the petition and appendices, 2, the budget and financial projections, 3, the demographic data, and 4, San Francisco's agenda, minutes, and findings regarding the school's renewal petition, along with the petitioner's responses. The petitioners are here today to address the commission, and I believe representatives from the district are here to address the commission, and as always, CDE staff is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. At this time, commissioners, do you have any clarifying questions for CDE? I don't have any. I think we're good.
I do.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I do.
Oh, Jamoke does have a question.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I just for clarity, I'd like to know, I'm seeing it as a non-recommendation, and yet I heard there was somewhat provisional language the staff just kind of put out regarding the racial ethnic balance and the revisions around preferences in terms of enrollment. So could I just get some clarity around that? That while this is a strong school, we're saying that because of the racial ethnic makeup, it doesn't fit some standard. That's a reason for non-renewal, and the preferences around enrollment. Well, those are two things that I heard, just to clarify.
So for item 2, which is the consideration for the renewal, we are recommending approval.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, perfect. All right, at this time, we will be hearing from the petitioner. The petitioner has 10 minutes to make the presentation. And then after that, we'll be asking for clarifying questions from the petitioner as well. Are they here? I know they're here, so.
Has to be this one. Yeah. You can just use arrow keys. So down.
And just for the record, through the chair, there are 2 people here who are part of the hearing and would like to make public comment.
Oh, thank you very much, Jim. Okay. At this time, we'll hear from the petitioners.
I am the director. Oops.
I think you're on
There we go. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Shanice Lazar. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction at the New School of San Francisco and a founding member of the leadership team.
My name is Ryan Chapman, and I am the co-founder and head of school at the New School of San Francisco.
I've been in education for over 20 years. I worked at a school called the UCLA Lab School for 10 years. But when I found out there was an opportunity to open a public school that put inquiry and equity at the center, I left that school because those are two things that I'm deeply passionate about. In the brief time that we have together, I'm going to go over who we are, our educational model, our success to date, and our areas of growth. I'd like you to meet Leslie. Leslie started with us in first grade when our doors opened, and she's now a dynamic fifth grader preparing for middle school. You're going to hear from Leslie in a moment, along with her mom. Leslie is a curious student who loves dogs, especially her dog PETA. She has an older brother and she's a loyal friend. During recess, you'll likely find Leslie playing Foursquare or cartwheeling around the yard due to her passions around gymnastics. I can attest that she's very flexible. I want you to know what we hope to be true for Leslie when she graduates from New School in 12th grade. You see, while our first charter term was for grades kinder through 5th grade, which we are now, our petition and vision has always been a K-12, and here's why. We deeply believe a 13-year commitment to children and families allows us the time and attention to help our children develop into academically thriving, self-reflective leaders who are poised to make change in the world. Our personalized approach allows us to use the knowledge about each child's strengths and stretches to develop individualized learning plans that follow them through elementary, middle, and high school to ensure they thrive. This long-term partnership with families gives us a runway to support each child and narrow an opportunity gap. Our school is founded on 3 principles: equity, inquiry, and personalization. For us, equity is a daily practice. It far exceeds the words in our petition and the posters that line our halls. Equity is the curriculum that explores big and important topics like race, power, class, and identity, and we start these conversations with 5-year-olds. Equity is our school-wide social-emotional learning, which is integrated into all parts of the day, including recess and our after-school program, Exploremos. It's filling our libraries with books and stories so children can see themselves and understand the world around them. It's building their conflict resolution toolboxes with practices of empathy and reflection, all while ensuring all children are included. Inquiry is our teaching and learning philosophy. It's a philosophy that's integrated, that's relevant, it's highly collaborative, it's responsive, and allows for a lot of student choice and voice. It's a philosophy that demands students practice collaborating, communicating, thinking critically, being creative, and building community along the way. Personalized learning undergirds all we do. For us, personalization is personal. It's deeply knowing a child, reflecting on their data, and making instructional decisions to best meet their needs via their individualized learning plans. It's having low student-to-teacher ratios so teachers can form deep, meaningful relationships with children and families. And it's meeting with families formally 3 times a year, including an intake conference where parents get to co-construct their students' goals. These pillars of equity, inquiry, and personalization don't just happen. We work hard to have thoughtful and intentional practices throughout our K-12 program. For us, these practices begin with hiring highly exceptional, talented, motivated educators who are passionate about our school, our mission, our students, and their families. We have a strong co-teaching model, which includes a resident teacher program that allows beginning teachers to build their instructional practices in equity, inquiry, and personalization. Our team participates in over 300 hours of focused professional development on these pillars, and we use strong data-informed practices which guide our work. And we don't do this alone. We have partnerships up and down the state that allow us to do this work. And this is in service of our city, our commitment to the larger public education landscape and aligning with SFUSD's 2025 vision.
So Shanice took you through the intentionality behind our model and our school and what we've been able to accomplish over the last 5 years. I want to take you through the impact and how we know that this is successful. First, we're going to look at our dashboard where we're blue in all categories and we've met all of our local indicators. The second is looking at our standardized test scores and that we are exceeding both the city and state in both English language arts and numeracy, and that we're seeing increases year on year in both ELA and math. And the academics are strong, and they're all built on a strong culture and climate in which we start well before we open our doors during the school year and focus on minute by minute, day by day. And that it extends from 7:45 when we open our doors to 6 o'clock when we close them. This has resulted in high average daily attendance, very low chronic absenteeism, near to no suspensions and 0 expulsions, a really strong culture around staff, families, and students, which we take multiple points during the year, bringing all of our community together, focusing on our positive behavior intervention supports and our restorative practice to ensure that these are all thread through everything we do. We also look at equity as a practice, as Shanice mentioned. It's not something you deliver a PD and check off the box. It's something you have to invest in. We do with 30+ hours of diversity, equity, and inclusion work for our team, how we look at our socio-emotional learning and our social justice practices and how they're woven into all parts of the curriculum, how we structured our home and school council and involve families in our decision-making, and how we make things accessible through interpretation and translation in all of our communications. We also look at demand. Last year, we had 714 applications for roughly 55 spots. 114 of these applications were from families eligible for free and reduced price meals. That can fill 3 classrooms of kindergarten. So it's not just enough to have the number of applications, it's whether or not you are a choice or a first choice of these students. We have a 71% overall accept rate amongst all our applicants. We have a 90% accept rate for those families who qualify for free and reduced price meals. Currently, we have a wait list of 569 families. 109 of those are FRPM eligible. Already for this year, and I'm sorry that date is wrong, it should read 2020-21. For this upcoming school year, we already have 32 families who have applied who are FRPM eligible. And we are a citywide school. This map shows you all of the applications we've received since we opened up our doors. In total, this is 2,341 applications, starting with 215 in our first year, increasing every year up until the current year of 714. They literally come from every corner of our city. We then look at parent satisfaction and engagement. We look at our retention rates, which are high. We look at our participation rates, which are 100%. We also look at how our families feel and whether they feel welcomed and valued, seen and heard. We have exceedingly high culture and climate amongst our families and feedback, including 100% of our families who believe in the mission and vision of our school.
As Ren mentioned, we have a lot to be proud of, but we also know that we have growth areas. For us, we far exceed SFUSD in the state in 8 out of 10 measures, with the exception of 2, both in numeracy, and so that's for our economically disadvantaged students, our ELLs in numeracy. To that end, we have already implemented strategies to address these goals. We have developed some school-wide goals laser focused on numeracy for these 2 populations of students. We continue to support our ELLs with the formation of our ELAC. And we've developed and hired a full-time counselor who's supporting all students, but particularly those who have trauma. We have developed an academic intervention before and after school program that we call Brain Gym. And we've also recently added the measure of academic progress, better known as MAP, to our already robust suites of assessments in order to better target specific skills and measure growth, again, specifically for these 2 populations of students. So we thank you for your time and allowing us to present our school, and we really look forward to your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we ask any questions of the petitioners, we'd like to hear from the county or district. I believe they're here. Or they're... It would be just the district, I believe. Okay.
Hi, you can actually hear from the county and the district since we're both.
Okay, you combined 10 minutes. Perfect.
My name is Mike Davis. I'm the Charter Schools Director for San Francisco Unified. You know, the only thing I would have to add is that, you know, we, as the CDE staff mentioned, did a comprehensive review of the success rate and the record of the charter school over the prior 4 years based on the criteria that are outlined in current law for our review of a renewal. So as was said, we found that the academic achievement criteria were met. So as a staff, we did recommend renewal of the K-5 program to our board. And we say the renewal of the K-5 program because that is what we could review because K-8 did not exist yet. As you know, our board did not support the staff recommendation for renewal. And that was mainly because the board has a great deal of concern about the lack of diversity of the school. The school had a mission called Diversity by Design, and our board strongly felt that the school failed in that mission. However, from the staff's viewpoint, we had the narrow criteria for review, and we made our recommendation based on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
At this time, do any of the commissioners have any questions for well, I actually have one for the petitioners, if you can come on back up. And then commissioners, if you have any, that would be great. I know you outlined in your petition, but how will you, what are your plans to diversify your demographics as compared to the rest of San Francisco Unified?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. So we're really focused on two things. One, which is you've seen the demand that we've had in our school year on year. You've also seen the demand both broken down in terms of those who qualify for free and reduced price lunch and those who do not. What we determined quite early on, after our first year, was that demand in the city was so strong, where we do no marketing, only low-income outreach or outreach in low-income communities, that we needed to do two things. One, which is we needed a structural change within our admissions preferences for those who qualify for free and reduced price meals. So that's the first thing. And so after our first year, we applied for a material revision to the state, our authorizer, for that preference. We were denied. And so we then tried the year after that and the year after that. All 3 years we were denied. And yet we understood that there are things within our control that we needed to do. And we couldn't wait for the state to approve those things. So what we did is we put together a very robust community engagement plan, which included recruitment exclusively and specifically in low-income communities, that was based on a cultivation model where it was high touch, multiple touch points, meeting families where they're at, going to them, establishing relationships, networking with specifically with preschools, and you're going to hear more about this in our middle school presentation, preschools that serve low-income families. We also looked internally. So that was our outreach. We then looked internally to say that we really needed to ensure that our school was a welcoming place for all families, those who are currently intended and those who were coming in as prospective families. And so this is where we invested deeply in our DEI work around cultural inclusion and understanding how we would present ourselves and be that place where all families would feel welcome, seen, and heard. I think our acceptance rate among low-income families of 90% speaks to this. I think our retention rate among low-income families in one of the most expensive and unsustainable cities in the world also speaks to our internal efforts. Again, we could have filled 3 classes of kindergarten with just the families who applied who were eligible for free and reduced price meals. And yet the demand was so great this year, it just far outstripped that. And the cruelty of our public random lottery is that it's just not allowing us to achieve the diversity that we need to achieve.
Commissioners, do you have any other clarifying questions for either the petitioner or the county?
I do. This is Shamoke Hinton. And it's all, and I don't know if this is getting too much into the meat, but for me, a clarifying question just based on the testimony that was just given in answering your question is to San Francisco staff, I think it's Mr. Davis, why is it as, I'm sorry, this is to the state staff, as authorizers, why for 3 years was this denied? Because if you go back to San Francisco, they said, we believe that you failed at diversity by design, and yet for 3 years there was an attempt to interrupt the system and the barriers to get to that equity, but the state did not support that in any kind of way. And so there's a twofold question around, did San Francisco Board of Ed and staff even know that there have been attempts to do the diversity by design in compliance with our laws and rules?
Thank you for the question. So it's my understanding under previous leadership in the Charter Schools Division, the New School of San Francisco did try to come back several times with the material revision because they wanted to change their admission preferences. And they, I believe, were told at the time that they should continue with the outreach efforts that they were already making, focus on, because they were in the kind of the infancy of their school already. I mean, they were still in the infancy of their school. I think they were only like in year 1 or 2, and they were told to go ahead and continue with the outreach that they were providing already, continue with what they were doing with their community engagement plan, and then continue with the working with the CDE staff in terms of oversight, and then to go ahead and look at their request during renewal.
So just as a commentary, and I get some, just as a commentary, like that's not how you achieve equity. It is not about like how many churches you can go to or the outreach worker that you do. You have to do systemic change and break down barriers. And so if the barriers were in the enrollment process, I would say that then the state claims to be doing, that's the answer. And I understand that it wasn't you who did that direction, but that's exactly why we have to do a better job of defining equity, because it's not enough to say just do greater outreach. They were actually systematically trying to shift how we actually do lottery and selection, and that wasn't allowed for. So I think that for me, I'd be curious, and so thank you for that answer from the state staff, but then to San Francisco staff, were you even aware of that? Because if a board makes a decision saying you didn't do something and yet there were barriers that weren't removed when asked to be removed, please let me know whether or not you're even conscious of that.
So the answer to the first question, I think, is yes. I, as the SFUSD staff person responsible for liaison with charter schools, was made aware of New School's efforts probably in 2018, late 2018, and we did have some discussions about the fact that that is what they were trying to do. So yes, I'm aware of that, or was aware of that. On the second part, I mean, the board did not we did not give the board a finding based on a lack of diversity, because we did not feel that fit within the renewal criteria outlined in law. The board made their decision to not accept our staff recommendation, and they expressed those concerns. But I don't think you can link any finding of lack of diversity to their vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, if there's no other clarifying questions, we'd like to, Jared Austin, go ahead.
Sorry, for the petitioner, can I have you guys come up really quick? And one clarifying, if you can pull up your presentation, the dashboard that you guys presented, is that your preview dashboard for this year? Because I didn't see that online.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's the preview for this year.
Okay, and can you pull up the slide in regards to your wait list and how many people applied over the last year?
That one?
And the one before that.
That one.
So 714 families applied this year. 114 of those were eligible for free and reduced lunch. Explain to me how you're now at 569 and still at 109. So does that mean 5 free and reduced lunch kids got in? And, you know, I'm doing math in public, but that's a lot of other kids that got in. So explain how it went from 714 to 569, and you still have 109 on the wait list that are free and reduced lunch eligible. How does?
Yeah, these numbers. It's thank you for your question. It's a really good question. So these numbers aren't directly comparable, only because what you're seeing is you're seeing both of these numbers are. So for our waitlist families, people apply and continue to apply. So even last week, I think we had 5 or 6 additional applications, and so we continue to get applications for this year. And so one of the requests from the CDE has been just around what our current wait list was. And so that the difference between those and the way the math doesn't add up, very specifically around like people continuing to apply. So that also the 714 families, they apply. Those are the number who applied over the course of the year up until this point. Not necessarily those who are part of the initial lottery. Does that make sense?
So of the 714 that applied, how many were admitted this school year?
So we had, that would be around 55. So yeah.
Okay, and so the 109 doesn't, and 114 doesn't necessarily, those aren't necessarily the same students, because those 109 that are currently on your wait list could have applied last week.
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And one other thing, CDE is recommending approval with the conditions, and I received a letter, I think, from you guys saying you guys approved with the conditions, but I didn't hear publicly from you guys today. Are you in agreement with the conditions that CDE is recommending for approval?
We are.
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
All right. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Okay. At this time, we're going to open it for public comment. And what we'd like to do is first hear from the public that is off campus. You will have 1 minute to present. CDE, Jonathan will be keeping track of that. And I believe, Jamoka, you have some people in Oakland that would like to speak. Jamoka, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I apologize. Testifying today in public is Denise Mencia Braun. And also Angela Wong might also be testifying as well.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to our stories. I'm both a founding staff member and also a proud parent of a new schooler. When our doors opened, I was the school's operations manager. I was drawn to New School because I wanted to have a job with purpose. In our first year, I also gave birth to my second daughter, Olivia, who was born with Down syndrome. It was an overwhelming journey to better understand Olivia's disabilities and the support she needs and will need to live a full and joyful life. While on that journey, I watched the incredible teachers at New School create inclusive learning environments which welcomed all children regardless of learning need, background, or ability. I was moved. So moved, in fact, that at the age of 40 with 2 young children, I decided to become a teacher. I took a pay cut and enrolled in grad school full-time so I can create classrooms where all kids are welcome, where I can build long-standing relationships with each child, and where we all can be our best selves. I did this because this is the type of school I want for Olivia and for all children. As a bilingual woman of color, it's important to me that Olivia and all my 4th graders know how important building communities that are inclusive to everyone is. Please reauthorize New School so that all the Olivias in our community can have a place to learn and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think I'm now. Okay. So Ms. Wong won't be testifying now.
Go ahead.
Ms. Wong won't be testifying now
Oh,
from Oakland.
Okay, no problem at all. No problem at all. At this time, will CD please call up and just line up maybe the first 5?
Please line up Fred Stein, Lorca Hart, Leo Hart, Wayne Jones, and Chloe Langan.
Hello. Should I start? Thank you, Commissioners, for hosting this hearing. I'm Dr. Fred Stein. I've worked at the Exploratorium Institute for Inquiry for the past 20 years, supporting teachers and teacher educators to make science more effective, and interesting. And I've worked with the New School of San Francisco for the past 5 years to help them apply an inquiry approach to science. Inquiry involves teaching students how to think, not just what to think. It's like teaching someone to fish instead of feeding them fish. It's among the most difficult approach to teaching, and it's at the heart of the new science standards that the state of California has adopted. Few schools teach inquiry at all. New School of San Francisco teaches it consistently and well. They're amongst the hardest working staff I've ever gotten to support, and these qualities position them as an inspiration and a model for others. Based on their work ethic and track record, I'm convinced they'll make really good use of the opportunity to extend their charter into middle school, and the Exploratorium looks forward to being able to continue to work with them on their middle school effort. I strongly support their application be approved. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Lorca Hart, and my son Leo is in the 3rd grade at New School of San Francisco, and we're going to combine our statements for 2 minutes. Right now, we're navigating Leo's IEP process as a student with a vision impairment, dyslexia, dysgraphia, auditory processing, and ADHD. Leo has a binocular vision problem called vision convergence insufficiency that also includes double vision. He has challenges that impact his fine motor skills with everything from buttons and zippers to writing and, of course, reading. So I grew up in a low-income community where people of color were the majority. However, there was a lack of diversity in teaching methods and resources for people like myself who needed extra support for my learning challenges. That is why it was crucial for me to make sure my son was in a school where there is both cultural diversity as well as diversity in teaching methodology and one that supports the whole child. His challenges, Leo's challenges, would qualify him for a special day class, but as his teachers and IEP team have echoed, we don't feel that would be the right fit for our son. His accommodations give him support where he's weakest, have helped him improve and also celebrate his strengths and what makes him unique. Because of the multiple teacher classroom model and his IEP support, we feel that New School's inquiry-based model is letting our son reach his full potential. And Leo's gonna say some words.
Why I think that New School is a great school, and because their OT teams and reading teams are superior in my opinion and outstanding. Not only if you have challenges like me, such as strabismus, dyslexia, ADHD, and dysgraphia, but also if you're just a classmate in a normal class, in a usual classroom, all the teachers will give you support.
Thank you for hearing our story.
Thank you. Well said.
Good morning. My name is Chloe Langen, and I'm a founding member at the New School of San Francisco.
Hi, my name is Wanji. I'm a 3rd grader at New School.
And Wanu, why do you love the New School of San Francisco?
Because it's helpful for students that don't know that much or have trouble learning, and it's a good school for beginner learners. And teachers greet you every day and help you, and they are really they're really helpful for people that don't know that much. And if you're like me, you have trouble with speech. Usually I would stutter a lot, but from the past years of me from kindergarten to 4th grade to 3rd, 2nd, and 3rd, I have stopped stuttering and have been saying my words correctly, and this is my reason why New School should be a school.
And Wanu, why would you like to stay at New School through middle school?
Because it's fun to stay with new people and meet new people, and some changes are good, but this change for new schools shouldn't leave. And another reason is new school is a good school for people.
How does it help all learners?
It helps all learners because if you don't, they have reading help. They help you with reading if you don't, if you have trouble with reading, and they help you with your handwriting if you have trouble with that, or they help you with speech. So this is why my reason new school should stay. And new school is a good school because the teachers know your home life. Like, they know about your home life, they know, and they ask questions about it.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good job, buddy.
Good job.
Please line up. Patience Y, Kaina Collins, Janelle Rulli, Romel Antoine.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Patience Yee, and I'm a board member and parent at New School. And when I was 12, I suffered a major trauma, and my school at the time was unprepared and to support my needs. I went from being a straight A student to dropping out of high school subsequently. I chose New School because of their true commitment to all kids, every kid, emotionally, academically, in all ways. And New School really has done the work up front to put those resources and support systems in place proactively for kids that have experienced trauma, especially. Things like individualized learning plans for every kid with goals that are specific to them, meeting them where they are. They have an on-site wellness center that kids can go to if they need a quiet place to de-escalate. They have a full-time on-site counselor that provides therapy and interventions for all these kids. And I've seen it in the hallways. I've seen it walking through the classrooms. And, you know, we call it, the parents and students and teachers call it New School magic, but it is not magic. It has been done very intentionally and by design. And I implore you to not only allow this school to continue, but to grow to serve the kids that need it most in our city. Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Kaina Collins, and I am a liaison from California Teachers Association. We oppose both items 2 and 3 for 3 main reasons. The new school does not serve a student population that is reflective of the racial and ethnic balance of SFUSD as a whole. The new school underserves students who are homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, that have a disability, demonstrating that it is demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth in the petition because it does not serve all students. The new school's academic performance is not equal or better than public schools in San Francisco with similar student populations. According to Ed Code 47605, Section B5G, a charter petition is required that the school will achieve racial and ethnic balance among its pupils that is reflective of the general population residing within the territorial jurisdiction of the new school district to which the charter petition is submitted. For these reasons, we oppose items 2 and 3. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Janelle Rulli. I'm an attorney with the law offices of Young, Minnie, and Core. It feels like it's been a little while since we've had a meeting like this one. I also wanted to extend our gratitude for the work of the Commissioners. I'm here today, of course, in strong support for New School of San Francisco and the tremendous work that it has done for the students in its community. We're pleased to see that there were no concerns from the CDE about the educational program, about finances, about governance, about operations. The few concerns that were raised can all be expeditiously addressed, and you've heard the petitioner's commitment to doing so. So for today, we seek your support in recommending approval of the renewal to the State Board. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Romel Antoine for the Charter Schools Association. Also want to thank the Commissioners for your long tenures of service to this Commission. CCSA is in full support of item 2. the renewal for New School of San Francisco. The school has been posting incredible gains and is incredibly committed to the community that it serves. I think specifically by showing through its actions that everything that they're doing is not a flash in the pan or a one-time deal, that this is a consistent approach to ensuring that students in San Francisco and the communities that they serve have quality education choices. I want to thank CDE for their thorough review of item 2 and hope that you approve the renewal. Thank you.
That's it for public comment.
One more.
Sorry, I got here after he collected the list. Eric Premack Charter School Center, we support this as well. This is a type of instructional model that's unusually difficult to get off the ground, and by all signals, they've done a good job, and I think it's very much worthy of renewal. And I think it also signals the fact that we still need a very strong state-level appeals process. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan, I think we have one more person coming up. Okay.
I also signed up to speak, the list in the back. My name's Julie Roberts-Fong. I'm here to make sure that you hear the impact that the new school's expansion would have on public school students in San Francisco. The new school is a majority white school. It does not serve all of our students. And that has impacts for students of color. They're co-located in a school that serves immigrant and refugee students and literally are taking seats from students who have the highest needs. At the same board meeting that they presented, there was also a middle school that was facing $300,000 in enrollment-related cuts. So we ask you not to approve or extend the new school's charter. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we're closing public comment, and we are opening it up to commissioners to ask substantive and clarifying questions that they might have at this time. Commissioners?
Hi, this is Gail Garbalina Mojica. I actually am fine with CDE's recommendation to approve with the contingency that they move the community engagement plan to the petition and that they make a switch in the admissions process to allow for greater diversity with the school. Other than that, I have no other comments.
This is Mark Ryan. I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
This is Ari. I'll second.
A second. Oh.
So we have a motion to move staff's recommendation to approve the renewal of the charter school for item number 2. Is there any other discussions or questions from the commissioners? Okay, seeing none.
I think sorry,
okay.
You know me. I have one. And you know, I know that we're going to actually have further discussion when we talk about the middle school and that divergence from acceptance here. But I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm speaking to the public comments a little bit, but like, could someone tell me really just quickly and clarifying what is the current racial ethnic breakdown of San Francisco Unified School District, or even kind of within that neighborhood? Because often I feel like there's this false premise that we're comparing to what, I don't know, what people believe to be actually like a balance racially. And so I don't know that we're actually comparing to something that is in right order, even inside of San Francisco Unified School District. So the question is, what is the racial ethnic balance basis in San Francisco students, or maybe even just in the region of that school?
Okay, there's several people that could answer that question, and we're having a race to the podium.
Good morning, Jamoki. This is Carrie Lopes. On page, if you look on the attachment 1 on page 25 in element 7, we do outline the demographic data for New School of San Francisco and San Francisco Unified School District, and the percent of pupils that are enrolled. So it is on page 25 of attachment 1.
That is,
Okay,
this is Mike Davis from San Francisco. Yes, I'm looking at the data, and it does align with what I know to be true. And so would you like us to give you the numbers?
I found the page. Thanks so much.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you teaming up to answer that question. Jamoke, do you have a question?
No, thank you.
Okay. At this time, we have a motion on the table to approve the CDE recommendation to approve the renewal of New School of San Francisco. At this time, we will be seeing no further discussion. We will go ahead and take a roll call vote. Lisa Constancia?
Yes.
Jared Austin?
Yes.
Gail Garbalina Mojica?
Yes.
Ari Engelberg?
Yes.
Jamoki Hodge?
Hinton Hodge, yes.
And Mark Ryan?
Yes.
And then I vote yes. So unanimously, we have approved the renewal recommendation to renew the new school to the State Board of Education. Okay. At this time, we will be. Do we want to take a 5-minute break or just move forward? I'm fine with. You want to take a 5 minutes? Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we will start up here and look at item number 3. Thank you very much. We will start in just a moment as soon as everyone gets seated here. All right, thank you very much. At this time, we are going to hear item number 3, which is a material revision to the grade span served from kindergarten to 5th to moving it to kindergarten through 8th grade at the new school of San Francisco. At this time, we'll open public comment. We'll hear from the recommendation from CDE staff, and then move on forward from there. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, commissioners and board member Burr. I am Terry Lopes with the Charter School Division, presenting item 3 this morning. Item 3 is a request for a material revision of the new school of San Francisco to change from a kindergarten through grade 5 to a kindergarten through grade 8 charter school. The school is requesting to add 1 grade level a year, beginning with 6th grade for the 2020-21 school year. As stated in the last item, the new school of San Francisco was approved by the State Board of Education on March 12, 2015 for a 5-year term, which expires on June 30th, 2020. The school currently serves 288 pupils in a K through grade 5 on a Prop 39 agreement within the boundaries of the San Francisco Unified School District. The CDE received the request for a material revision on September 30th, 2019. The CDE is proposing that the State Board of Education hold a public hearing to deny the request for the material revision of the expansion of the new school of San Francisco. The CDE finds that the petition does not provide a reasonably comprehensive description of all of the 15 charter elements. Although CDE recognizes that the school's overarching goal has been to expand its educational program to provide students and families with a continuum of services, the CDE is concerned that the racial and ethnic balance has not been achieved in the 5 years that the school has been in operation, and that the preferences currently written will not yield a racial and ethnic balance reflective of the San Francisco area. Therefore, the CDE is requesting that in order to achieve this goal, that the petitioners, if approved by the State Board of Education, revise Element 7 and Element 8 of the charter petition. Element 7, racial and ethnic balance. To satisfy this requirement, the CDE is requesting that the new school of San Francisco incorporate the community engagement plan in the school's petition. Currently, the plan is located as part of the appendices beginning on page 144 in Attachment 8. The 8-page plan outlines recruitment and outreach strategies and the school's dedication to serving a diverse population. Element 8, admission requirements. To satisfy this requirement, the CDE is requesting that the new school of San Francisco revise the order of admission preferences, giving first preference to pupils eligible for free and reduced priced meals, and second preference to siblings of pupils attending the school. The CDE staff review report, Attachment 1, provides the full analysis of the new school of San Francisco material revision. The agenda item 3 provides a brief summary of the CDE staff report. The petitioner is here to address the commission on this item as well. San Francisco Unified School District is here to address the commission, and CDE staff is available to answer questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you very much. So CDE is recommending denial of this. this petition. Commissioners, do you have any clarifying questions at this time?
Hi, this is Gail Garbalina Mojica. I actually do have clarifying questions of Carrie. My question is when we were looking at the renewal criteria, I understand that you look at the preponderance of evidence. I'm throwing out a legal term. You look at the evidence on the test scores to determine whether or not the petition should be renewed. With a material revision, is it a different standard? I'm a little bit confused as to why on the previous agenda item the CDE's recommendation was to approve, but on this agenda item it seems that it has a similar issue having to do with adding the community engagement plan and reordering the admissions, which it sounds as if the petitioner is open to, why that then did not equate to a similar recommendation as in the previous agenda item.
So in agenda item 2, you're right, Gail. In agenda item 2, we really were looking at the renewal criteria. So we're really looking under the Education Code under 47607B, which outlines the renewal criteria to see if the school either met the renewal criteria under Education 47605 or 07B, or even under alternative measures, which is Education Code 52052F. So we were really looking at that under the Education Code, what we could recommend in terms of them meeting the renewal criteria. But when we're looking at the entire, we do look at not just that though, but we also look at the entire petition, the appendices that are submitted to CDE on appeal, along with all of their financial reports. And our concerns were about elements 7 and 8. We did try to elevate those and write some conditions in the attachment 1. If the board went ahead and approved the renewal, we wanted to see if we could possibly make some changes with that in order for them to try to reflect the demographics better between the school and then, of course, the community that they are serving. But in terms of the renewal criteria, they did meet the renewal criteria, and that's why we did recommend approval for item 2.
Gail, this is Lisa.
Okay, so, oh, yes.
Just to clarify a little bit, so the conditions that are in the A1, those were conversations that we had with the school about our concerns as we were going through this process. So we were very clear that the school met the renewal criteria. As we were looking at the material revision to expand the schools, we were very concerned about the issues that we have raised about their admission preferences and the racial and ethnic balance. So we are still concerned about those going forward. The items we have in the attachment A are not conditions that are actually a part of the item right now. Those, we have included them as part of your motion in the first renewal, in the first piece, which was just the renewal item. But those are areas that we are still continuing to talk to with the school. And we're still continuing to determine if those are going to meet the criteria or what we feel would be a change of recommendation as we move forward. At this point, with what we know about the school, we are still recommending denial because we are concerned about the expansion piece and whether that the middle school portion will meet the needs and the student population of the district.
Thank you. And I
Does
look
that help
forward
at all?
to the petitioners. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And I look forward to the petitioners addressing this in their 10 minutes that they have.
Okay.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will hear from the petitioners. You have 10 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Emily Bobel-Kilduff. I am one of the co-founders and heads of school. I started my career as a middle school math and science teacher, so I couldn't be more excited to tell you a little bit about our middle school design.
And I am Cristina Cañaveral, and I'm the Director of Community and a member of the founding leadership team at New School San Francisco.
Great. So let's start with the big question. Why middle school? There are a number of reasons. Middle school is really important to our community, But I'm going to give you the top 4 for right now. So first and foremost, we've made a 13-year commitment to our students and families. There's a growing body of research that suggests that a consistent, personalized, and highly student-centered approach is one of the most effective ways to narrow the opportunity gap. But that takes time. That is not a 6-year endeavor. We believe that's a 13-year endeavor. Second is continuity. Our families have chosen our model because they're looking for something particular for their children. There is no, you heard Fred testify earlier, there's no highly personalized, inclusive, inquiry-based public middle school in San Francisco. And we know many of our students will struggle with that transition to middle school. We can eliminate that transition for our kids. Third is stability for our families. There are 8 K-8 schools in SFUSD. They received 596 more applications than they had spots for. We also know that attrition in San Francisco is the highest between grades 5 and 6. So if we can eliminate, again, those transition, we benefit all kids, but especially our most vulnerable kids facing the most barriers to success. Finally, number 4, our families need better options in San Francisco. I'm going to show you a slide of the 4 area middle schools of where the bulk of our families reside, all of which are underperforming compared to the city and the state. So you can see here there's Everett, James Lick, MLK, and Willie Brown, all again underperforming both the city and the state. I think it's also worth pointing out that the city, in our city, only 55% of our middle schoolers are on grade level for English. Only 50% of our kids in middle school are on grade level for math. So we put together a design team. This work started 14 months ago. We brought on educators, researchers, and some of our current staff to think really intentionally about the middle school experience, knowing that this time period in kids' life is really, really important. Their bodies are changing, their worlds are changing, and we want to make sure that the student experience matches what children need during adolescence. So we have in the appendix all the research insights that we acquired over this process. I don't have time to go through all of them with you, but please know that they're in the appendix. I encourage you to read them. I'm going to hit on a couple that get me really fired up. So one is this idea that in middle school, kids are asking themselves this central question of who am I and what do you think of me? Peer validation and support is deeply important to children at this age, and they're wrestling with some really big important questions that we need to honor and make time in the day. And second is, why are we doing this? Why is my learning relevant? I want to be an adult. I'm not an adult yet, but I want to know that what I'm learning matters and it's going to amount to something in the world. So the more we can make the curriculum highly relevant, the more engaged we know our students will be. I'm not going to hit on everything on this slide, but again, this is a summary at a high level of some of the design elements that informed the process as well. So again, I spoke to really making sure that there's time and safe spaces for kids to continue to do that identity work and self-discovery, that learning is highly collaborative given how much kids at this age are really seeking that peer interaction and they want to be social. And also, we need a very holistic plan, which we've outlined in our petition, for sex ed for our children as well, given all the changes their bodies are going through. So here's why our middle school approach is unique. So one, the inquiry-based program that you heard us talk about already, it just continues to promote the deeper learning, the critical thinking, the problem solving. As Fred at the Exploratorium said, it starts with the next generation science standards, and then we build from there to integrate across subject areas. Social justice and equity remains at the heart of what we're doing. We've started an exploration with kids around race, power, dominant culture. This work takes time. We get to go even deeper with children in the middle school years. Their ILP continues, so that individualized learning plan, so we already have all that institutional knowledge on a child. You heard Shanice talk about Leslie. Imagine Leslie going to a middle school where no adult in that building knows her. We already have 6 years worth of information in her individualized learning plan to build from and make sure she's on a path to college and beyond. And finally, chances for students to explore their identity and things they're passionate about. I get really excited thinking about the clubs and electives that we outlined in our petition. So kids have a breadth of opportunity to figure out, like, where do I want to go deeper and what gets me jazzed? We also put in the appendix the student experience. I'm just putting up one slide here to demonstrate how both those research insights and some of our high-level summary informed the student experience, the day in the life. What does that from 7:45 to 6 p.m. look like for a middle schooler? It's all in the appendix. I'd say the other information that supplemented our research, we did focus groups with families, we did focus groups with students, and focus groups with educators even outside of our design team as well.
All right. So again, my name is Cristina Cañaveral, and I also want to express my excitement as someone who went to 3 very different middle schools for every single year of my middle school career. I am the director of community at New School. I'm a member of the founding leadership team, and I also head up all of our recruitment efforts. So I get to talk about all the meaty stuff that everybody wants to hear about. And I think one other thing that I would point out is that as we talk about Leslie, who you've seen from kindergarten, first grade, 5th grade, she's going to get up earlier. Often in my conversations with Leslie, I tell her that she is me and I am her. I like to think that 30 years from now, Leslie will also be standing up here advocating for what she believes in. So one question that has been raised is whether or not we have the ability to diversify our student body, particularly as it relates to socioeconomic diversity. From this slide, you can see no one is going to tell you that we are where we want to be. I want to be really clear that when I say we, I mean our entire school. Our increasing the socioeconomic diversity of our community is a priority for myself, for our entire staff, our students, and our families. So I want to give Ryan spoke to this previously, but I want to give a little bit of history and context. Demand for New School has increased every single year, exponentially, I would say, in the last couple of years. And at the end of the first year as a school, it was clear that a structural change to our lottery was needed because a structural change would complement what we were already doing, which were targeted recruitment strategies. And so we applied for a material revision and were denied. And then we applied again and were denied. And then we applied again and were denied. And we understand some of the technical reasons behind why we were denied for this structural revision. But we also know that it is a complement. It is not the only thing. And so being able to take our targeted recruitment strategies along with a structural change would actually achieve the racial and ethnic balance and our socioeconomic balance that we are looking for. You can see in here that without the structural change, we are already doing great things. We have 2 times the number of socioeconomically disadvantaged applicants as open seats. As Ryan said, we could fill 3 kindergarten classes with that. And I think the 2 90% numbers are really important because we aren't just trying to get applications. We are actually letting families know really important information about our school, which then makes them, this is their first choice. It's a 90% acceptance rate among socioeconomically disadvantaged applicants. When they get their offer from the lottery, they say yes, and overwhelmingly so. And then once they say yes, and they've been there despite 2 moves, despite uncertainty, they still stay with us, which to me says that we're following through with what we do. And here are some of the strategies that we use outside of what I would say the top and the bottom, which is the preference in our lottery and a stable facility. We have targeted outreach, which is myself and a team of parents and teachers. We go out to low-income communities and community-based organizations and preschools for kinder, and then mainly community-based organizations to look at 6th grade. Access to information and ease of application. Our application is about 5 minutes to complete. It's available on an app. It's available online. It's available on paper. I sit down and I help families fill it out. And I would also add that every low-income family that applies with me has access to my own personal cell phone so that they can ask me questions, which goes back to that 90% acceptance rate and then the 90% retention rate if they choose to receive their spot. We have open and consistent communication. That communication is both for our prospective families as well as our current families. We talk about accessible transportation and carpooling because we know that transportation as well as the one below, which is free or low cost out of school care, are 2 important things that we want to make sure that all families know that we will have if they choose to accept to be in our school, if they get a spot and say yes. And then stable facility, which with time we will have.
Great. I think we're close to time here. I wasn't timing, but we already hit on this response to the CDE's conditions. Here are the 4 conditions. We accept all of the conditions upon approval. And thank you for your diligence in such a thorough review of our school and your consideration.
Thank you. At this time, let's hear from the district, and then we'll bring you back up for clarifying questions.
Thank you, Mike Davis again. I'd just like to start by kind of framing where we are. So This is a charter school or a petition that was denied by San Francisco Unified's board back in 2014, and of course approved on appeal here at the state level. And so they've been operating since 2015-16 in the city of San Francisco under CDE, SBE oversight. So as a result, we don't have, meaning the district does not have oversight responsibility or has not had oversight responsibility or a great deal of interaction with the school outside of the fact that they are in a district facility under Prop 39. So the law requires the petitioner to come back to the jurisdiction of original denial, which they have done. And we, as the jurisdiction of original denial, are tasked with reviewing the renewal petition under the criteria outlined in the law. And so we are able, or we were able, to get information about how the school has operated over the past 4 years, academically, financially, governance, and we used the criteria, and the staff made a recommendation that they met the criteria for renewal for the program that they had operated, which was starting at K1 and growing to K5 this year. So we maintain that the only thing we could do under the law was review what they had already done and were currently doing and make a determination based on the criteria outlined. And that's what we did. We also said that we could not review or make a determination as to their past success in operating grades 6 through 8 because they had not operated them. So we had to look at their expansion, we felt, as a material revision. The petitioner objected to that and said, no, we just had to make a determination whether or not they should be renewed and be renewed as K through 8. We looked at the expansion. We looked at the required elements in the petition. We determined that the petition did lack some specifics that would show that they had the ability to successfully carry out the 6 through 8 program. CDE staff has basically done the same thing and added some provisions or some concerns about the fact that they have failed to achieve diversity over their prior term and really don't have a clear plan or a high likelihood of success in creating that diversity in a 6 through 8 program. So SFUSD staff found that the expansion for 6 through 8 should be denied. The petitioner has just mentioned that the district middle schools in the area are not performing well, and this is true. However, that gets back to what we're talking about here. Those middle schools in the district are demographically much different than the demographics at New School as they have produced them so far. None of our middle schools have more than 25% white population. New School's socioeconomically disadvantaged population is less than 12%. The district is 54%. So the petitioner is saying, well, they are needed to provide those outcomes in middle schools for the district, but they've only shown so far that they can provide those outcomes for a very different kind of demographic. So those are some of the reasons that we feel that the petitioner should not just be allowed to automatically expand to 6 through 8. They did not come to the CDE or the state board to get a material revision during the term to expand. If they are renewed at K5, this is a suggestion that maybe they should have to come back to CDE during that term for a material revision for grade expansion.
Thank you very much. At this time, do any of the commissioners have any questions for the petitioner or the district?
Yes, I do. So thanks again for everyone's work on this and the staff's work. So I wanted to kind of go back to where I ended around asking about the racial and the economic diversity piece, because I just want to always make sure that we're grounded in context. Because when I look at this data, San Francisco Unified School District, for example, only has, it says, 14% white families. And also, let me just qualify, I don't think student achievement is about proximity to whiteness by any means, but at least in this particular category, when we're doing this comparison, San Francisco Unified School District doesn't even have white students for the most part. I'm sure a lot of those families go on to private schools or wherever they go. So again, I'm always clear to are we talking apples and oranges? And it's not enough to just throw out a chart. San Francisco Unified has 8% African-American students in its entire system, whereas New School actually has 5%. So for me, proportionally, at least in the case of Black students, that's relatively close. And then I would say the Latino piece is it's larger in San Francisco Unified School District, but only by about 10%. So again, there's let's not just put numbers out there and think that satisfies us around our data need to talk about these conversations, but to really say that how many children is this? And so this will get us to capacity down the road. And so I know we'll have more debate, but I think for me, it was important to clarify when I have to judge something based on what is supposed to be statistically an issue, and we're judging the diversity piece. I just wanted to kind of go thank you for that chart, and now I've done my own clarifying to look at while there's more socioeconomic students in San Francisco Unified School District on the racial side, we're not necessarily talking about a system that's doing anything different or couldn't be learning, at least from this school. So that thanks for again pointing me to this chart and helping me clarify more what the real context is.
Okay, thank you.
This is Mark Ryan. This is basically probably for the petitioner, but it's a comment and sort of with a question. I am concerned about the issue of the free and reduced lunch percentages, and I hear you say that your numbers of free and reduced lunch applications or applicants that qualify for free and reduced lunch are high, except in looking at the data and looking at that comparison point that Jamoka just talked about, I'm concerned about what I do see as a disparity between your free and reduced lunch numbers and the broader community that is being served. And I guess what I'd like you to help me understand, again, because I'm less, as Jamoka just said, I'm less concerned about the racial diversity piece directly than I am about the socioeconomic diversity piece. And I'd like you to just help me understand why you believe that disconnect exists, and what specifically you've done to try to address that disparity.
Thank you, Mark. Can we have the petitioners come up?
So thank you for your question. I think that the first thing we'd like to say is that as much as one of the commissions mentioned earlier, there is a structural issue here. There's a systemic issue around choice and how choice plays out with privilege. And the fact is, we have a school that is in high demand, and because of demand, the way the system is around preferencing in the public school lottery, plus our own lottery, means that those with information, those with access, even if it's access to our tours, right? Access to our website, access in terms of language. Those people are applying in much greater numbers than those who come from low-income backgrounds. And so in an attempt to kind of to balance the scales, and one of the things I want to point out is as the CDE's concerns became clearer, we got a call from the superintendent's office, Kai Jackson, in asking these questions. And I appreciated just the clarity and directness of those questions. We believe that the recommendations that are proposed by the CDE are the right recommendations in terms of a structural change in our lottery to address a systemic issue at play in San Francisco. And this is across San Francisco. This isn't just something exclusive to our school. But we are committed to it. And as I said before, it is a whole community that's committed to it, including our current parents who stand at risk, all right, around losing a preference for siblings. But it's important to us as a community to achieve this and to address the structural issue, in addition to all the other things we can do to kind of balance the scales in terms of access, interpretation, translation, transportation, all the things we do internally around diversity, equity, inclusion.
I think you covered it.
So to follow up on that then, obviously CDE staff is recommending denial. And I recognize, I heard what CDE staff said about the difference between the renewal and this material revision. But now that you've heard loud and clear why staff is recommending denial, what other than arguing that if we do what's in the renewal petition with the recommended conditions, what else do you have to say to CDE staff's recommendation for denial?
Well, I want to just point out to make clear to everyone that this is not something that the conditions aren't something we're accepting just because we're up in front of you. These are something that we've been requesting for the last 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. This is a priority for us. We have been putting our actions behind our intent, both in terms of what we've been requesting from the state but have been denied, but also in terms of how we spend our time, energy, and resources within the school. And it's a conversation we have every single day. So I want that to be clear to everyone, that this is a commitment through and through and has been for many years. We've seen the systemic impact and the inequity around a public random lottery. We need to see that change. We also believe, and I want the CDE staff to hear this, and everyone else, we do believe, based on the commitment and all of the work we've done in terms of the systems, processes, procedures, the program we put in place, which you've heard is really intentional, that we are prepared for this. The CDE staff knows us better than anyone else. They have been in our school with our kids, with our families, with our teachers, as a part of what I would say is a really robust and very good system by which we're authorized. They're managing us. It's been good. It's been open door, open source, open book. I believe that they can see that we are also ready. We will leverage the innovation that we are afforded by virtue of a charter to make this happen.
So let me make a sort of a counter argument. One could argue that what would be best in this case is that you wait 1 year, we see whether or not the revisions to the lottery process, to the enrollment preferences, we see whether or not a substantive difference is in fact made in your demographics, and then you would potentially be coming before the commission and the state board with an affirmative recommendation from staff because they see that there has in fact been fidelity to the revised enrollment practices and the argument that you've actually done what you said you were going to do, and therefore it would seem like at that point CDE staff would say, okay, well we're satisfied that the new school's done what they said they were going to do. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction to it is that one of the reasons why we are extending sixth grade from 48 seats to 60 seats is to do just this, to make sure that we are making progress across our elementary and middle school grades, and that the preference that we would set a floor, a minimum number of families who are eligible for free and reduced price meals across all grades. And for us, what that would mean would be that we would be demonstrating progress from kindergarten through sixth grade. So we would hope to demonstrate that. We would hope to demonstrate with the good work that we're doing with these kids, our current fifth graders going into sixth grade, that we'd see meaningful change and shifts. And of course, this will happen, over years as we grow and also as we experience attrition. That we will get to that balance and we will make meaningful progress starting from next year.
So for your enrollment criteria, all the fifth graders will be going to sixth grade currently at your school site. And then you'll be expanding how many additional seats?
12 spots.
12 more spots.
If all 48 fifth graders continue through to sixth grade, we would be opening 12 spots.
12 spots.
90% retention rate. It's going to be at about 12.5 spots.
Okay. And then what percentage of those 12 spots will be filled with diverse students or socioeconomically disadvantaged students?
We would,
for example.
So what we would do is we would look at the percentage currently as the upcoming cohort as we ran our lottery that already have committed and are qualified for free and reduced price lunch. We would then say, well, then what is the difference between that percentage and the 33% floor? We would then, our lottery would preference applicants in a random lottery, preference first off, applicants who qualify for free and reduced price lunch until that 33% threshold, and then it would be a random lottery. So our expectation is, as next year, our sixth grade class, our kindergarten class, and then of course dealing with the attrition in between, but our kinder and our sixth grade class would be at a minimum 33% free and reduced price meals, if not above, given the fact that we're still aggressively recruiting within low-income communities, and so we would still have a healthy pipeline even beyond those who are immediately preferenced.
With the recruiting in the diverse communities, what do you feel is like maybe the top two reasons, specific reasons why socioeconomically disadvantaged students are not attending your school?
I want to take one piece really quickly. I think one piece that's really difficult, which we don't have control over, is our facilities. And so the district every year has told us we will not be in the same school site more than 1 year. Now, as it's played out, we are currently in our school site, which fits us for, and this will be our third year. But in all good conscience, we can't sit in front of any family, specifically families who have a high, kind of a low tolerance for risk, and tell them we know where we're going to be next year when the district has told us you will not be in the same building. And so when families ask, where are you going to be, we have to tell them,
we don't know.
We don't know, and we won't make. You will not have to make a decision until we know where our facilities is. This has become a problem when we've only been able to confirm for the last 2 out of the last 3 years exactly what our facilities are going to be in July, and so that just makes it really difficult for now. Families with privilege. There's a structural issue here, a systemic issue. Families with privilege say, "I'm with you. You're the best school for me. I'm going to follow you, regardless of where you're going to be." Mm-hmm. Lower income families have a much higher susceptibility to risk, and so that's a much more meaningful uncertainty for those families, and that's been a big issue for us. So,
but to follow up on what you just said about July, why is it July that you get that confirmation? If you're getting a final offer from the district on April 1st, why is it July?
I would say for 3 years ago, it was due to the fact that the board, San Francisco Unified School District Board, upon approval of our facility use agreement, the board itself made a decision that they were wanting to change the site location. We went through a process in which that was ultimately not changed, but it really threw up an enormous amount of uncertainty, and we didn't know where we were going to be for quite some time. This past year, it was that we had a facility use agreement, yet we didn't know where we were going to get our classrooms from, and we were working collaboratively with the district to be able to figure that out. But it was a matter of just like literally we weren't assigned enough classrooms, and the big question is, where would those come from? So the uncertainty piece there, along with a very explicit statement from the district that we will not be in the same site, every year, has made that difficult.
So just so that I'm clear, because I'm extremely familiar with the Prop 39 process, what you're saying is that when you got the final offer on April 1st each year, it did not contain a definitive statement that you will have X number of classrooms at X school, X number of whatever. I mean, that the final offer did not contain that level of specificity, or help me understand that, because that doesn't make sense to me.
I would say every year is different. Every year is complicated, so there's been no consistency. However, there have been some years where it's been very clear, right, what we'll have. But let's say our final offer in our first year, it was at a different school site, and then the decision was made to then switch the school site after April 1st, and then the decision in July was made to then switch that yet again. So that was difficult. This past year, again, we had an agreement on our school site, a general a knowledge of number of classrooms that we would be allocated, but not a specific plan for where those classrooms were going to be coming from. So it was not clear how those classes were going to be allocated and what would happen for the opening of school.
Okay, thank you.
So with that said, do you have a facility for the 6th grade class if you were to receive this authorization?
So our current facility is about 109,000 square feet. There are a total of 600 students on campus, 300 which are roughly, 288 which are ours, 300 of which are enrolled in the high school above. We're allocated 10 classrooms, 2 of which we've subdivided, 2 of which are portables. The high school, I think, has around 28 classrooms. There are 3 very large classrooms that are for central administration on site. We believe there's space. There's about 250,000 square feet of land. We believe there's space there. However, we're in conversations with the district around what school site would fit our school, K through 8, and obviously much depends on the outcomes of this. But what I would say is that there is an ongoing conversation of where our school would fit based on our authorization.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And did your Prop 39 application on November 1st include the supposition that the additional space would be needed?
It did, yes. We applied for grades K through 6.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right. Can we actually hear about the facilities issue from San Francisco, the district?
Thank you. So a couple things. One, I don't think it's fair to say that the district says every year you will not be in the same place. What we say is you are not guaranteed to be in the same place because we are operating under the provisions of Proposition 39, which say that Proposition 39 agreements are 1 year in time frame. This school, new school, started out with San Francisco, or operating in San Francisco in lease space for their first 2 years. And now for the last 2 years, or 3 years, they are in the same space, the same school facility for 3 years in a row. Now, there was 2 years ago, there was an issue where the staff made a recommendation for the placement and our board disagreed. So that did play out over the spring and was finally resolved in July. The next year, the school was allocated the same location, and we made provisions to divide some rooms to make sure they had enough classroom space. This year, they did, as every year, they do get a April 1st final notification that says, here is where we are offering you space, and here's how many classrooms. There's never any variation in that. But this year, we had to add 2 more classrooms because of their expansion to grade 5. And we said they would be at their same location. It's just that we were having issues allocating the additional 2 classrooms because they are co-located with our newcomer high school, San Francisco International High School. And as you can imagine, there was a great deal of concern with the high school about the charter school continuing to expand into their space. What we finally did was we agreed to install 2 modular classrooms by August 1st, and we met that deadline. So there was no uncertainty as to where they were going to be. The only uncertainty was how we were going to provide the additional 2 classrooms at that site. So I just want to be clear that there is always some uncertainty in Prop 39, but there was no undue or unusual uncertainty in this case.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other clarifying questions?
I have questions for the petitioner. Or petitioners.
I had a clarifying question on facilities also.
How has your diversity changed in 5 years? Starting, you did the recruitment, you opened, you got your students. How much was your free and reduced lunch back then? Where are you today?
So in the beginning, we had kindergarten and first grade opening. First grade was more diverse, both socioeconomically and racial and ethnically. I think primarily because the families that said yes were coming from a kindergarten experience that wasn't working for them. And then we had a racial and ethnically balanced kindergarten class. And then our second year, racial and ethnically balanced, not socioeconomically balanced. I think that was our first year of a school. And so, but that was when we talked about, like, we can see that despite our recruitment efforts, we need that structural change. The next year after that, that would be our current, sorry, it's taking me a minute to think about what grade they are in now. Our current second graders as a class are least diverse. And then our first and kindergarten classroom are racial and ethnically balanced. From free and reduced price lunch, it's remained relatively the same, with our current fifth graders being the highest. And then from there, I would say third grade and first grade. And then actually, this year we had some attrition in what is now our fourth grade class. And within that fourth grade class, we were able to pull students off of the wait list that qualified for free and reduced price lunch.
The school as a whole, percentage-wise, you started with what and you are what now?
We started with, I can't recall the number.
We'll have to look up the exact number. It was under 25% FRPM in our first year, and then it is relatively been stagnant from year 2 on. So we saw a dip from year 1 to year 2. Don't quote me on that exact number. It was around 25% in our first year, and then it's been relatively stagnant.
Okay. And then the gentleman earlier said that the conditions that you are agreeing to with the enrollment preferences is not something because CDE recommended, it was something you wanted all along. Why wasn't that built into the renewal from the beginning? If it's something you guys had wanted to do a material revision for 3 years, and then at renewal time, that's kind of your opportunity to make some changes. Why didn't you do it during the renewal rather than in the renewal petition itself, instead of waiting for the conditions to be given to you by CDE?
I mean,
Can you clarify the question, though? I just want to make sure I'm clear, because we did put it as a...
Yeah, it's always...
Change in the preferences was built into...
Yes, it was always
renewal.
built in. Yes. We always, that was, so there were three things that were, originally, this was one package. This was not separated out as a material revision. I think you've heard that. You'll hear from our lawyers again. So a true de novo review would have been, you're looking at 6-8. Okay. And the 2 material changes we're asking for are the extensions into grade 6-8 and a preference in our lottery for families that qualify for free and reduced price lunch.
But I think maybe what you're pointing at is while we've always wanted to add that preference, what the CDE is flagging is the order of the preference in terms of putting the floor of families that qualify for free and reduced price lunch above siblings.
Yeah, those were conversations we had with them after, as we reviewed the order of their preference, which is one of the things that we're continuing to talk to them about. And when we look at the material revision, we actually go under 47605, which is a complete review of the applicant on its standing, just as is. And so those preferences, they've used the same ones they used from the renewal, which is why we are still concerned about the expansion. So in more conversations we've had with them, they have agreed to move the free and reduced price meal percentage or lottery piece up, but that is a change in the original petition as it was submitted to us.
That's what I was referring to. So the original submission did not have that change.
The original petition had the order siblings, free and reduced price lunch, City of San Francisco, and then beyond the City of San Francisco. And the CDE, we got a phone call a week ago. What's the exact date? It was very, very late into the process of reviewing our application. This hadn't been flagged until about a week ago. That then there were these concerns that the lottery preference, there's concerns around our ability to meet the racial balance we're seeking. And we had a productive phone call with Kai Jackson talking about all of our efforts. And then the recommendation still came out to say, upon approval, we'd ask that you switch the free and reduced price lunch above siblings.
Okay, I think I understand that now. So looking at next year, we're really talking about 12 kids, potentially, right?
Adding to 6th grade, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then of that, the floor is 33%
minimum.
minimum. What is 5th grade currently today?
25%.
Free and reduced price.
So 8% more students
minimum
can get into your school.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess my concern is that the demographics have not changed in 5 years, and you're still dealing with small numbers. So how much impact do you really think that's going to have? I guess if you're 12 students, potentially a max of 8%, and then kindergarten, what is your expectation for overall change in this next term if this was approved?
In the presentation, if I could find it, I don't know which one. Oh, right here. In the presentation, there is the slide that I mentioned. There is a projection with the preference. Right there. So projected with preference over 3 years.
And that's overall, not just 6th grade.
That'd be the overall school.
Okay. So you're projecting it's going to go from 11% to 35% over 3 years? And how many of the free and reduced lunch students got into kindergarten this last year? Of the openings you had?
Of the opening, there were, I'm looking at the spreadsheet in my head.
That's okay.
I believe it was about 7 or 8 that were originally offered.
Of the 55?
Of the 48.
48.
So 55 overall from the perspective of kids that have moved away, but 48 for kinder. And of those 8 qualified for free and reduced price meals because of the random public lottery. And of those 8, I believe 6 or 7 said yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Jared. Jim, okay, do you have I thought you might have a question.
Thanks so much, Jared. Thank you so much for your questions around that. I'm wondering if it was such a good line of questioning. Then, so you said, it was 8 that came in your kinder. So with this new structural shift, what would the expectation then be? That you would have an additional 8 kids to that?
It would mean at minimum 16 automatically get offers for kindergarten.
Okay.
At minimum.
Okay.
And then we're opening it up just to continue with the lottery we've had, where you can assume it's been anywhere from about 15 to 20% of families eligible for free and reduced price lunch get an offer. So you can assume that then on top of the minimum of 33%.
That's right. Okay, thanks
and
so
on
much.
top of that, you would also include any siblings that also qualify for free and reduced price lunch.
Right. So I had back to clarifying, because these are clarifying questions, I think, at this point, correct? And this would be to Mr. Davis, I believe, San Francisco. I represent school districts on the Board of Education, and so familiar very much with Prop 39 and, just the landscape of our buildings and access for all Oakland kids to get a public school building. And so we've done work to actually do long-term leases. And so I'm wondering, does San Francisco have any of that as a practice?
Yes, we have long-term leases for charter schools that are authorized by our board and have at least 5 years of experience. So there's currently 14 charter schools authorized by San Francisco Unified Board. 3 of those are the Sheriff's Department 5 keys, so they have their own facilities and operate everywhere. There are at least 7, probably 8 charter schools in long-term 5-year agreements that run concurrently with their charter petition term.
Okay, great. And obviously you won't be able to speak to this, that you don't do the policy making, but I'm sure you can make recommendations. So I'm just wondering, especially as we move into a different era around supporting charters and this alternative for families, just a thought on what it might look like for a school if there's approval of the school and it moves forward, what it might look like. Because stabilizing facilities, just for me in general, I think it's a critical piece when you are asking people to do better work around SPED students, for example, or just other students maybe with challenges or just a diverse population. Facilities they matter. That learning environment really, really matters, and so hope it's just a thought that. So it's good to know that you don't offer it for state authorized schools, but you at least do it for the schools you do authorize. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
Commissioners, thank you so much for your questions. We have started to move more into substantive questions, but I'd like to hear to see if there's any public comment regarding this item. Commissioners, are there anyone off-site that has public comment at this time?
Yes, I do have one person who is going to do public comment. Angela Wong.
All right, there's a 1-minute time limit, and that person can proceed when they're ready.
Thank you for hearing my testimony. My name is Angela Wong. My son Aiden is in 5th grade and started at New School 4 years ago after being diagnosed with ADHD, sensory processing disorder, and anxiety disorder. His meltdowns were so extreme, we had to remove the furniture from his bedroom. We knew that the school was founded on equity, inclusion, and individualized learning, but weren't sure what to expect as his needs were so significant. Aiden had an IEP with robust services, including a part-time aide, and New School's small group learning, tiered supports, and co-teaching model allowed him to stay in a more inclusive learning environment instead of a special day class. 4 years later, it's hard to believe we're talking about the same child. No more sensory meltdowns. He's an integral part of his classroom community, able to self-advocate without disrupting his classroom. Last year, he graduated from his IEP to a 504 plan. New School delivers on its mission of inclusiveness and individualized learning. Aiden's future success depends on continuing with the same educators that supported him over the last 4 years. I urge you to approve the school's reauthorization and middle school expansion. The reason not to skip a year is because it does impact kids like Aiden. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing that there's no other off-campus public comments, Jonathan?
Please line up. Aiden Zentel, Theo Mikarimi, Elena Lopez, Leslie Lara, Maria Christina.
Hello, my name is Aiden. I am in 5th grade at the New School of San Francisco. When I started at New School in 3rd grade, I felt scared at first. The first day I walked in, someone walked up to me and said, "Do you want to be my friend?" And I immediately felt really confident that I was going to like this school. It is the 3rd school I have attended, and I want to stay here for middle school, and here is why. Kids who need extra support get it. Whenever I see a student who needs extra support, I know that they're getting help from someone like an adult. Also, there are a bunch of friendly faces whenever I walk into school, and people are always welcoming me. It is really diverse because there are a bunch of different cultures, skin colors, and everybody is being friendly to each other. And that makes me feel really happy, and I'm sure it makes other people feel extremely happy as well. I ask that you continue to allow us to stay together for middle school. I need it, and so do other kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden.
Hi, my name is Theo Marcarimi. I am 10 years old. I live in San Francisco with my parents, my little brother, and our dog and cat. And I'm in the 5th grade at the new school. On my school days, I wake up with a smile on my face knowing that I'll be going to a school I really like. Everyone is always welcoming, I always feel included, and the teachers make learning enjoyable. Up until 4th grade, I was in my local public school and then transferred to the new school where I found a new energy within myself to excel at reading, writing, science, and tackle challenges like math. I am putting time into my schoolwork and the progress makes me feel good about myself. As a 5th grader, I'm concerned about attending middle school. In our neighborhood, there are no other middle schools except for private schools, so I would love to continue in the new school where I feel happy and inspired to learn. Thank you. I'm Theo Marcarimi.
Well said, Theo. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eliana Lopez. I am the mother of Theo. I'm from Venezuela, and I have lived in San Francisco for 12 years with my husband and 2 sons. Our eldest son, Theo, 5th grader now, joined the new school a year ago after attending our local public school since kindergarten. We had been searching for an inquiry-based learning school with individualized learning plans for quite some time, and we're excited to find the new school. The other option was not an option at all, paying high tuition at the private school. The new school knows how to direct the immense amount of energy of a 10-year-old boy into a confident learner and channel his flame into creative ways unseen before. And as a bilingual parent, I appreciate the sincere, unscripted support by the new school staff. Where we live, there is no neighborhood middle school except private schools. And yet, the growing population of families anxiously search for an answer. So please allow the new school to be the answer and expand into middle school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leslie. I am in 5th grade at New School. New School is special for me because of the community we have. We accept people how they are and we learn to work together. I have great teachers who feel like family and not just someone I have to listen to. My teachers push me on my thinking and I learn different strategies for all my classes. I need to continue 6th grade at New School because I have made a lot of strong relationships and memories here. At school, I always get what I need to learn, and I know in middle school I will need teachers that understand me and how I learn best. Please don't break my heart by not approving this amazing school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Cristina, mamá de Leslie en 5º grado de New School y un hijo en high school ahora. En New School, Leslie se siente muy aceptada como es y reconoce que es diferente a los demás por sus cualidades en la diversidad de la escuela. Todos somos iguales. Como mamá, los valores de New School le han servido para ser mejor persona de cómo tratar a los demás y cómo quisiera ser tratada. En Middle School sé que hay un gran cambio para los niños. Hay mucha sensibilidad que afecta su estado emocional y académico, y en la New School los maestros están involucrados con los estudiantes en los 2 aspectos. Su estructura de enseñanza es distinta y personal. Mi hija hace preguntas para aprender y seguir investigando. El enfoque socioemocional es importante, pues están generando personas sensatas con el poder de colaborar y trabajar con todos sin importar lo que sientas o lo que tengas. Vengo de un camino de escuelas públicas con muchas experiencias. Quiero algo diferente para mi hija y la New School lo tiene, por ello pedimos su apoyo para seguir adelante como nueva comunidad. Gracias.
I'm going to translate or interpret. Sorry. My name is Cristina. I'm the mother of Leslie in 5th grade at New School, and I also have a son in high school. At New School, Leslie feels accepted for who she is, and she also recognizes that she is different from everyone else because of the qualities of diversity and equity at New School. We are all one and the same. As a mom, New School values have really served my daughter to be a better person, how to treat others, as well as understanding how she wants to be treated. In middle school, there is a really big change for kids. They become more sensitive, and this affects both their emotional state and in their academics. And at New School, the teachers are involved with the students in both aspects, academic and social emotional. The teaching model is distinct and personal. My daughter she asks questions to learn and to keep investigating. The social emotional focus is important because they are learning how to be more sensitive people, to be able to collaborate and work with others without worrying about what each other has. I come from a long path of public school experiences, and I want something different for my child, and New School has it. That is why we ask for your support to continue as a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please line up Asta Venklovalte, Nikik Rao, Josie Andre, Janelle Rulli, Romel Antoine.
Hello, thank you for listening to our stories. My name is Asta Venklovaite, and I changed my speech in the last 15 seconds. I came to this country as an immigrant. I had $50 in my pocket. In the first 2 years of our school, we qualified for reduced price lunches. Now we're doing a little financially better. I'm still working as a waitress in San Francisco, which is one of the most expensive cities in the world, and my husband is self-employed, working on motorcycles. My kids could not be more different, yet New School is the best place for both of them. I'm here because the school is keeping us in California. I wanted my daughter, who did not say a word till she was 3, to belong. She spoke so quietly during her kindergarten year that no one could hear her. With the inclusiveness model, with teachers listening and learning about individual child's needs, my daughter learned how to trust her environment. Now our girl, who still struggles with analytical processing and speech, she has a speech IEP, proudly presents her opinions to her peers, even if the opinions are off topic sometimes. She knows that no one will laugh. The school nurtures kids with special needs by allowing them to shine their own light and not be intimidated by their differences. New School is the only middle I want for my kids. So many families leave the public schools at middle school because of lack of options. For our family, public school is the only option, and families deserve to have better options. I'm here because I want many future generations to experience the magic of New School. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nikhil and I'm in 5th grade. I think you should reauthorize New School and allow it to expand into a K-8 school. I want to continue at New School. It is the right school for me because, one, the teachers take the time to get to know each student and what they need to succeed. 2, the New School handles conflict by helping the students involved talk it through instead of just punishing the student. And 3, inquiry-based learning is great. It allows me to ask questions about the subject, and then the teachers give me the means to research that question. Please approve of New School's petition. It's a great school, and I really like going there.
Great job. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Josie and I'm a 5th grader at New School. Over the 4 years I have spent there, I have made many friendships with peers and teachers. Not letting us stay at school for middle school would cut all those great friendships. At New Schools, all our teachers are more than just people that we have to listen to. They are our friends and helpers. At this school, there's a wellness center for the whole school and a cool-down corner in every classroom. Everyone is given what they need to learn, if it's a break in the cool-down corner or just a fidget. Please don't cut our friendships and destroy our New School community by not approving this wonderful school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Romel Antoine again for the Charter Schools Association. Just really quickly to talk about what it really means, what we're talking about here. So San Francisco Unified is a district of choice. I'm not the policy expert on this, but really what that means is that parents need to know when, where, and how to apply for the schools that they're going to get into. Parents who have access to information are more likely to be affluent and not the parents that we're talking about here. So by the time we get to the lottery system, these parents are already advantaged in the process, and the parents who don't have access to that information don't. They don't have the access to the school that we're talking about. So that's a real structural thing that we're addressing here. So what did the school do? October 2016 came to the state, asked for material revision for that 33% for FRPM. Was denied because they didn't have the reserves. Okay, school goes back, makes some more changes, trying to get engaged in the community, comes back again a year later, asks for that preference again, and gets denied again for the same reason, that they didn't have the right amount of reserves. They closed that year with 8%, 3% over the 5%, right? So the state on that number was wrong. The school goes back, and again, it's trying to make that happen. And so at the end of the day, we're asking you to look at what the school has tried to do, and in addition to what it has done, and then recommend approval to the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning again. Still, Janelle Rulli from Young Minnetonka Corps in support of New School. Honestly, though, I'm confused about why we're perpetuating this fiction that there is a material revision. Only one charter was submitted. The really key fact here is that New School was approved by the state board as a K through 12 charter. Member Holliday explained this. Member Rucker agreed. We were in the room. This was a K-12 charter. We're not adding grade levels. All we're doing here is building out the program that was approved. Ultimately, for the good of the youth of San Francisco, the charter school does understand this characterization, does seek to engage with the ACCS at this time about these grade levels. All of the concerns that are raised here, we just addressed with a unanimous approval. So we seek another unanimous approval and recommendation to the state board. Thanks.
Thank you.
Please line up Julie Roberts Fung and Eric Rimac.
Hi, I'm here to ask you to look at the actual numbers, not the intent. If you look at the numbers over time, the New School has become less and less diverse over time despite their best efforts. It's now a majority white school. There are only 5 majority white schools in SFUSD. Our district believes that having diverse education setting is best for all students. There's only one other non-private majority white middle school experience in San Francisco. It's also a charter school in a gentrifying neighborhood, in a historically black neighborhood. In the neighborhood that the New School is located, there are other charter schools that have managed to accept a higher percentage of families of color. TECA and Mission Promise both have high percentages of families of color. And the instability that the New School is frustrated about relative to their space is a frustration shared by the refugee and immigrant students at the International High School where they're located. So we have families who are coming from refugee situations across the year, and because there's not space available for them, we're denying newcomer students, who are some of our neediest students, the opportunities that they need for educational opportunity. We shouldn't be doing that for a majority white charter school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Premack, Charter Schools Development Center. We've seen this sort of admissions preference for low-income students work extremely well in very similar circumstances in other districts across the state, including some of the current state-authorized schools. It's a very powerful and effective tool. I think it will address all of these concerns very effectively, very quickly, and would urge you to support the expansion here. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more public comment, we will close the public hearing and we'll move on to commissioner discussion. You know, this has been a real challenge. We're looking at, you know, especially for me, I love the K-8 environment. I think it's good for students to have consistency from kindergarten through 8th grade. And, you know, looking at I think that your scores are to be, you know, compared, you're the highest performing school in the surrounding area. If you compare yourself to similar schools, you're right in the middle. And then, you know, looking at it, and I'm trying to juggle whether demographics is a reason to not, you know, have you continue your program that's working in the area. And so that's my struggle. What's more important? And so I know that we're going to have some questions from the commissioners. And at this time, we can turn it over to the commissioners for any comments or questions that they might have. Jared?
Question for the petitioners.
Well, before the petitioner goes, I'd really like to say to all the students, it's really hard to get up here, and you guys did a great job. I'm so proud of you. So, well done.
Thank you for that.
So comment and then question. Comment is, I think you do need to grow in order to change your diversity and your numbers. I think it's the only way you're going to be able to do it. You have to have more seats available. My question, though, is Janelle threw me off with the K-12 thing, so maybe a little history on what that was about. And then maybe CD can clarify that too. But why are you expanding to only do 6th grade next year instead of 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 6th and 7th? Because my concern is that we're talking about 12 students, and then you have your cap, or not cap, your floor that you're shooting for too. And then you're full again. You know, your 6th graders are going to go into 7th grade. I didn't hear that you're going to increase student seats in 7th and 8th grade. So why not more now where you can get even more new students in to change your diversity? Why just 6th grade instead of 7th and 8th to get more students in at one time?
Thank you. Those are awesome questions, and a few in there to respond to. So why don't I start with the K-12 piece, since that seemed to be new information for you. So 5 years ago, the design of the school has always been K-12. I mentioned before, it's a 13-year commitment we want to make to students and families based on the research around reducing transitions and the time it takes to narrow an opportunity gap and have a highly intentional, personalized approach. So we've always been true to that commitment. 5 years ago, SFUSD denied us on those grounds. They said, you've only put forth a plan for K-5 from an instructional standpoint, because we knew the terms of the charter are only 5 years, so it was premature to outline the plan for middle school. But they used those as the denials, the citings for why to deny us, because we didn't have a plan for K-12, which was accurate. We had outlined a really robust plan for K-5. We came up to the state board, we received a unanimous authorization, and there was some healthy exchange and discussion among, at that time, Commissioner Bruce Holliday and Commissioner Ruckers around, I'm a little confused, it makes sense to be confused, are they K-12 or K-5? And I think State Board Member Holliday said it best on public testimony. He says, okay, I want to clarify for my fellow board members, their vision is K-12, the petition is K-12, but the terms for this charter are just K-5, because their 1st graders are only going to be in 5th grade by the time this charter is up. And in 5 years, we're going to see the commissioners back here or at SFUSD when they have a plan in place for their 5th graders. And so that's what we're here today. We've spent, like I said, the last 14 months being really intentional about that design and build out. I think it also speaks a little bit to you asked the question, why not 6th, 7th, and 8th? In the design, a lot of the research we did and a lot of the school founders we talked to and a lot of the data we looked at other schools, we found that schools that open with 100, so that would be adding 180 seats overnight, tend to really struggle. That's a lot of new kids. It's a lot of program to think through, both 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, knowing we're intentional about the difference, even cognitively, developmentally, about each of those grades. And so we really want to build with kids. So we're setting ourselves up for success and setting kids up for success. And felt like taking on 180 students overnight would be really challenging, when our build-out plan to date has always been adding about 50 students a year, which has presented us with enough challenges right there in terms of what that means for culture, family engagement. And we feel like we've done right by our families every year in adding 50 more families, and we don't believe we're positioned to add 180 families overnight. Anything you'd add?
I believe that answered, did that answer your questions? Great.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, while the petitioners are up here, you have any other questions for them?
I had to clarify. It's back to clarifying. Sorry, it just what I thought I heard, but I didn't hear anything about staff diversity. So probably someone's going to say it's on page such and such, and I skipped it. Could someone tell me what the staff diversity, racial diversity is of your staff?
Yeah. So 13 of our teachers are African American. 17% of our leadership team is African American.
Latinx, 21% of our teachers are Latinx, 17% of our leadership team, and 29% of our board. Asian Pacific Islander, 4% of our teachers, 17% of our leadership team, 29% of our board. White, 50% teachers, 50% leadership team, 14% of our board is white. Mixed race or other, 13% of our teachers, 0% on our leadership team, and 29% of our board.
Thank you. Second clarifying question, and I think this is for the staff, and I heard the petitioners, two different people, maybe Ryan, I'm not sure who the other person was, said that. Did I hear that the superintendent of public instruction for the state of California called via staff to the school directly?
That is correct. The Deputy Superintendent of Public Education called us last week with some clarifying questions.
That was Kai Jackson.
Mr. Kai Jackson.
Not the superintendent.
Correct,
Tony
the Deputy
Conway.
Superintendent, sorry. Deputy Superintendent of Public Education called us last week with clarifying questions. We were told we've been in really close communication with the CDE staff over the last we submitted on September 30th. We had some questions that arose, nothing that seemed incredibly significant, just some clarifying questions here and there over the last 2 months. We were told that the report would be posted by 5 p.m. the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I forget the exact date. I just know it was the night before Thanksgiving, and we were all anticipating the report. The report was not posted by 5 p.m. the night before Thanksgiving, and so that prompted some questions, given everything seemed to be going in that direction. And then got the phone call Monday that there were some clarifying questions from the state superintendent via Kai Jackson, the Deputy Superintendent of Public Education.
And those concerns match what you find in the report and the concerns laid out in the report, along with, we had a good conversation with Kai around, potential changes to be made to address those concerns.
Okay, real life, right? I feel like we're living in a very interesting time. If we think about nationally and just up is down and down is up, and the level of influence. I have been on the board for 3 years, I guess now, and I've just not had that experience of the deputy, superintendent stepping in that way. And so what kind of influence did that have? Obviously it delayed some processes. And so is Kai Jackson there? I don't understand that influence or input.
Kai is not in the room right now, Jamoke. This is Lisa. It wasn't a delay of input. In our typical process is we do brief the deputy superintendent and inevitably Lupita and the state superintendent. So, and it was unfortunate. Unfortunately, the timing was very close to Thanksgiving and when we had to post. So it wasn't anything intentional. It unfortunately got a little too close to posting. We wanted to make sure we posted the agenda so that you knew you were on the agenda. We wanted to continue our conversations with you. And unfortunately, when Kai called you, I was not available to call you, but one of us needed to get a hold of you and talk to you about where we were. So it wasn't anything that was intentional in the sense of any additional influence. It was unfortunately the timing of how the posting and the agenda and everything rolled out.
We assumed it was not intentional at all. I just shared that
No.
information to kind of follow the timing of it all. And it was an incredibly productive conversation with Mr. Jackson. And we turned around. He said, this is very clarifying. Some of this is new information to me. He said on the phone, I didn't know that. I thought it was a cap. You only wanted 33% low income. We said, oh my goodness, if that's what you're thinking, absolutely not. It's a floor. How can we clarify? He said, why don't you write a memo? So in 3 hours, we quickly dropped everything we were doing, turned around a memo to make sure that everyone at the CDE and in the state superintendent's office knew what our commitment was and what we were willing to do to make good on our commitment to equity.
So Lisa, you were clear that he was asking for direction? Because it's just for me, it's just in a kind of different power authority dynamic. Because if I were a petitioner, I'd be like, if I'm dealing with you all the time, and then all of a sudden I have the deputy superintendent who's, directly connected to the superintendent of schools. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of heart palpitation there. And then I have to respond to something in 3 hours. I hope you were at least in that loop because it sounds like you weren't able to make the call yourself. So anyway, that feels out of order for me, and I understand maybe there was no bad intent or et cetera, but like it doesn't look good.
It wasn't intended to be
okay,
out of order.
Clarified. That's fine.
Okay.
Fine, you've clarified it.
Okay.
And Jamoki, I kind of disagree just a little bit with you. I think it looks great because I think it's important that our deputy superintendents are involved in the process. And so with that said, differing of opinion here, but, I think it's good that, that they're listening and they're looking at these petitions and taking them seriously at the highest levels.
Yeah, but I think a petitioner, though, is going to have a struggle with that around the power dynamics that exist. And also, if you're not clear on, like, what the bias is in any kind of way, like, there's bias that comes with that. And if I'm a practitioner and all of a sudden I have someone out of the blue who has a lot of authority and power, like, great, I'm glad that they read and they absolutely should know. But I'm just saying, I mean, we agree to disagree on that one, but like that's a power dynamic that I've never experienced in the last 2.5 years, and maybe I just never had heard of it.
Yeah, thank you. I understand exactly what you're saying. Thank you, Jamoki.
A request. I apologize. One of our parents didn't get called up for public testimony. I didn't realize that until just now. Is there any possibility that we can have one more 1-minute public testimony?
I believe we could do that. Not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and then commissioners, we will ask further questions after we have one last public comment.
I appreciate that.
We'll reopen the public hearing and then.
I'm the parent of a 5th grader. My son Max has sensory processing disorder, ADHD, anxiety, and a history of aggressive behavior. And that's why I value New School's unwavering commitment to reach every child who comes through the door. New School delivers on the promise of inclusion. With customized learning, it meets Max where he is. Social emotional learning lets Max bring his whole self to school, and he's not just accepted in this community, he's valued. The New School team knows Max, monitors his progress, and gives me visibility and a voice along the way. 4 years in, Max participates in class and is on track in reading. He has strong friendships, and for the first time this fall, he sat down and did his homework on his own. For kids like Max, progress is fragile and transitions devastating. Without New School, we'd be starting over and likely never find a school that compares. Please, let's extend and amplify New School's success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This time we'll close the public hearing and go back to comments from the commissioner, clarifying questions, either declarative or substantive, or comments.
Ask a question to CDE just to clarify the comment about the K-12 versus K-5.
Sure, I'll be happy to clarify that. So the original petition that New School of San Francisco wrote back in 2015 came to us on appeal from San Francisco Unified School District. In the petition, it did state that their overarching goal was to become a K-12 school. So the petition, but within the petition itself and what was looked at from San Francisco Unified was really the K-5 model. So when they came in front of the state board, our recommendation in front of the state board was to approve the K-5 model, but there was an understanding that they really wanted to expand to a K-12 over the next 10, 15 years, or the life of the charter, and that they would be coming back eventually to try to expand to become either a K-8 and then move on to a K-12, or just to expand all the way from the K-5 model to a 5-12 model. And there was some discussion at the last state board meeting in 2015 around the model of being K-12 and then what really was realistically they wanted to approve at that time, because it was just a new charter school.
So it was approved as a K-5, not a K-12? Or? Well,
the petition states it was approved as a K-5 petition. It was approved as a K-5, but the petition states itself that their goal is to become a K-12. But inside of the petition, it only outlines a K-5 model. I don't know.
The motion was for a K-5?
Yes, and the motion was for a K-5, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners at this time? Okay. Would anybody? Yes.
This is Mark Ryan. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that, contrary to staff's recommendation, I'd like to recommend approval of the material revision as submitted, with the caveat that the staff's recommendations for the changes in enrollment preferences be incorporated into the material revision.
This is Ari Engelberg. Mark stole my motion, so I'll second his.
Okay.
You stole my second. This is Jim. Okay.
Okay. So right now we have a motion on the table to approve the material revision with the caveat that the new school of San Francisco will implement the staff's recommendations. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Yeah.
And just to be clear, those are in the attachment, but they're not in the item itself. So we'll have to talk about how to do that.
Okay.
So
we're looking at the items in the attachment.
Certainly, in the last 8.5 years, we've had situations where we've made, recommendations from the dais that would then get passed on to the state board, and then the state board can decide whether or not it wants to take the recommendation. But this would simply, my motion is simply to by necessity connect the material revision to the original recommendations that were in the original item number 2. So presumably, if item number 2 does not pass the state board anyway, then or if item 2 passes as recommended, then that would automatically be in the renewal. And I just want to make sure that it's clear, at least to the state board, that my motion is that it would also include those same provisions in the addition of the 6th grade.
And Lisa, the provisions in item number 2 and 3 are the same?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
They're just in the attachment. So if that's part of the motion, then that would be included as we did in the first for the renewal piece.
Perfect. So any further discussion on this motion?
I just have some, and it's really just to the new school community. Wanted to thank the students, and I think I got everyone's name: Leo, Aiden, Juan, Theo, Leslie, Mikkel, and Josie. And if I missed anyone, definitely to the parents, thanks for coming, and to Angela Wong, who's with me right now, and other folks who came to speak on this behalf. And so again, appreciate your energy and your effort. The other pieces that I just want to say is that I think, race equity work is really difficult and hard. And so I would, when I ask those questions about, like, when a deputy superintendent's calling or staff is making kind of decisions over the last 3 years around the structural barriers and, didn't do that work, I want to say that it's not just compliance and checking a box. And so if we are saying this really matters to us as staff members or commissioners, that I think that we have to really do the work. And the new school has actually said, at least in their, clearly in their petition, that this is not them checking boxes, right? That this is like courageous conversations on a regular basis, difficult kind of work, and places where you'll see no success even after you've put in a lot of effort. So just want to say that it is in our culture right now. I don't want us to get caught up in just, we've checked the box, or we feel like some kind of way you didn't measure up to get to this work. And then I would say that the Latitude School that the state did approve, and my school district didn't approve, nor did my county approve, is actually doing really good work at looking at the preferences around zip codes, and really, diversifying that particular school. So again, it is important to acknowledge that there's some folks that are doing the hard work, and it's bit by bit, but there are definitely some great examples. So definitely support this, and we'll be voting for it. and then hope that all of us will do deeper work around more integrous work when we talk about equity.
Thank you, Jamoke. Are there any comments before we do a roll call vote from the commissioners? Okay, we will move forward with a vote. Lisa Constancia?
No.
Jared Austin?
Yes.
Ari Engelberg?
Yes.
Gail Garbalina Mojica?
Yes.
Jamoke Hinton Hodge?
Yes.
Mark Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes on that as well. So that will be a recommendation to the State Board of Education, a 6-1 vote in favor of approving the material revisions. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and being here. So thank you. At this time, we will close the meeting.